What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Jacked Ramsays. Danny Meringue here. It is official. The 2025-26 season is underway with Media Day here. Wrapping up, 5 hours ago, 6 hours ago? We got done about, 1:30, something like that. First of all, mild apologies. Not even mild apologies, apologies. I have been nowhere to be found. I mentioned it a little bit on social when somebody asked a couple weeks ago, a week ago, something like that. It's been tough for me lately. I'm not going to go into the why of it all, but things did not get very good. I had to kind of step away from everything other than doing the radio gig. Just kind of focus on some stuff. So I know I promised a lot of content I was going to deliver it, and I didn't. And for that, I'm sorry. So I just wanted to say that I don't like to tell you guys I'm going to do something and then not give you guys something. And I appreciate you guys that have made all this stuff possible. So thank you. I do, however, have a metric crap ton of content I'm literally sitting on right now. Well, not literally sitting on it. It's on my other screen. I was going to publish on Friday, and then Scoot's injury kind of threw a wrench in everything. I went, I guess I should probably reevaluate how I'm going to do this, because the first one was going to be Scoot. So I think later tonight I'm going to push it all out. Not all of it. I'm going to push the Scoot one out with a little addendum on it. And then we'll have a slow trickle throughout the week and throughout the preseason, as it were, with the series I'm calling Challenges and Opportunities. Challenge for Scoot right now is get healthy. But we'll get into that here in just a little bit. Got some questions, but first of all, we're going to start with just the gist of Media Day. For those that aren't familiar with the process, all of the media gather in one location. Everybody comes around. It's first day of school. You come get your photos taken. They go shoot all the promos behind the scenes. There was, I'm pretty sure it was Time Lord, Robert Williams III. I heard screaming at one point in time, "Rah!" from the Moda Center floor as they're filming the stuff that you see throughout the entire season. They do all that in one day, basically. They come in, film, do all those things. And then it gets kind of filtered into everything else, into all the stuff they do throughout the season. I will say I've not done anything here, and I barely got the chance to talk about it on the radio today because it was so busy on Friday. The new video boards in Moda, to be blunt, they kick ass. They're really cool. I got invited in there along with a handful of media, and my first reaction was, whoa, when I walked out on the floor. There's the new center court one that has some screens underneath that are angled, so you can see if you're sitting lower. The wraparound boards. There's one bigger one in each corner. It's connected by a ribbon. I think I said it was 100 feet long, 136 feet long. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I'm sorry, my numbers are not sticking there. But it modernizes the arena in a way that I did not think was possible in that place. It's pretty cool. So I'm really excited for you guys to see those. I would encourage everybody to go to FanFest Saturday. I think that's what it is. But yeah, that's kind of the quasi-newsy things. They rule. They're really cool. I'm really excited to see what you guys think of them. My phone was not able to capture how cool they are. Because they had the lights kind of dimmed and it kind of washed out my phone, and I'm too stupid to know how to work it to try to get it to where it needs to be. So apologies for that, but I tried to do what I could, posted some videos up on there. But really cool. I like them. Beyond that, let's kind of dive into the Media Day stuff. I think one of the bigger, obviously, storylines is ownership, and I'll kind of grab that as one bucket, not just Dwayne Hankins, the president of business operations, or Joe Cronin, general manager, or any of the players that were asked about it, but just in general. So the Allen estate has indeed agreed to sell to the Dundon, or to Tom Dundon and his group, which includes the Chung family. Raj Sports Group, which is the Bethal family, they own the Timbers and the Thorns and the Fire. And the gist of it is that it appears that the Raj Group went to the Churn Group, and the Churn Group was like, okay, cool, and then they found what they perceived as a better partner as it pertains to Tom Dunn and his group, and opted to go that way, and allegedly violated an agreement they had with the Raj family, the Raj Sports Group, the Bethal family. And we'll see where that goes. I am not a lawyer. I am not a legal scholar, but based on conversations that I have had with people that do know these things, nobody as of this point expects that this is going to hold up the sale or cause anybody to have to fall out of the process. That can change. We can all see that as it pertains to the ongoing saga of Pablo Torre versus the Clippers. Wow. We'll get into that probably at a later time. But while it certainly doesn't look great for sure, I do think that there's probably, again, based on what I have heard and what I've been told, this does look like it's going to go to a point where things will be okay in the end. If that changes, or if I get information or intelligence that it says otherwise, I will relay that. But as of right now, that's my belief. So, kind of dovetailing off that, the thing that seems to be coming out of this, as it pertains to ownership, and the thing that was asked, I think, most frequently or in the same vein, is that where is the line of demarcation as it pertains to ownership currently? The Allen estate, Jody Allen, Burkhold, the executors of the estate, as it were. I don't know. I'm dumb. But beyond that, where does the kind of the buck stop? And it was pretty much echoed that while Dundon will certainly have some say in some things, but until the process is formally completed and ratified and voted on by the NBA governors / owners, that Jody Allen and Burkhold will have the final say in those things. I would imagine that's probably for, public digestion, but if this thing gets far enough down the road, I would imagine that transactions are not going to place without Dundon signing off on them. That is typically how these things operate. So, outside of that, I think that's pretty status quo. I don't think there was anything that came out from Dwayne that was a surprise or a shock or anything along those lines. There are some changes coming to Moda, some other projects they're hoping to work on, so the public-private partnership. And he did state that he doesn't anticipate, at least at this time, that a new arena is on the horizon. Instead, it sounds maybe more like a real modernization of Moda, which I would like to see how they're going to do that, especially with another, client, as it were, in the Portland Fire in their building. So they can't just shut it down for the summer. So, but that's for another day. The other thing was Joe Cronin was asked about if kind of playoffs was the bar. And I think I don't want to say he walked it back, but walked it back is the simple way to say it. But I have held the stance that the playoffs and or play-in are not the bar. I think they're going to probably put up or right around the same record, except for it's going to be more consistent throughout the process, i.e. they're not going to come out of the gate and just suck. They were tremendously bad for the first 2.5 months of the season. It was wretched basketball to watch. Clearly nobody was happy. And we'll get to Jeremy Grant's comments. But guys weren't happy. There was a lot of changes on the basketball side of things as it pertained to how they went about things. And I think there was some good and bad in that. And I think they've taken that and applied that to this season with some changes and some things they're keeping and some things that they're doing differently. So I think those were kind of at least the major takeaways from Joe were simply that he kind of set the bar at as long as we're on the right path, which some people probably call it a passing the buck situation, but they're going into new ownership. So it's a big old shrug, right? And if you're watching or if you're listening on audio, I just kind of threw my hands up. So I know I should be better at this considering I do radio every day, but I still use my hands a lot. Sorry. Beyond that, let's kind of get into the players, right? Dame got up there and damn near did a press conference by himself. It was surreal kind of having him back in the room in that setting. He is not going to play this season. That's where he's at. I'll be honest. I've talked to him about this, and I've said, don't you dare come back unless you're 1,000% good. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We've kind of gone back and forth about that because I know how much of a lunatic he is and how badly he wants to be back. He said it publicly, and then he's said as much to me privately that he is thrilled to be back, and you can see it. He's in a good spot, and it's really cool to have him back. Like, somebody sent me a clip earlier. Dame walked off the podium, kind of gave me a hug. I haven't seen him since the press conference. I'm going to be biased with the guy. I love the guy. I do. Like, he's been, not even arguably, he's been the best player I've ever covered. He's a franchise player, and you don't get those all the time. It's a rare thing, and just having him back around, it just kind of establishes a level of professionalism, excellence, how you go about things that when you don't have one of those guys, it's empty. Like you just know it. And him being back with the team and back in the building and back in the process, even though he's not playing, it's there, it's evident, it's present. And his comments, there was nothing there that he said that was, earth-shattering or anything along those lines of like news breaking or things that I didn't anticipate him to say. Thinks, Hanson's got game. Yeah. Everybody was saying some version of that. But beyond that, it's about kind of being back, being a part of the city, being a part of the organization, being a guy that's going to pour into guys. Chauncey Billups kind of highlighted, Dame and how he's going to be utilized and not utilized as a coach. But he's going to pour into the young guys, particularly Scoot and Shaden. Guards that if they're smart, they will lean on him hard. Dame is a guy that if you work and you ask and he's not going to put you in the corner. He's not going to ignore you. If you are willing to do the thing, he's going to pour into you. It's what he wants to do. It's how he's built. He's not going to keep it all for himself. There are stars in the league that are like that. So it's that part of it is great to have him back. I went past Chauncey, and I shouldn't have, because I think that's actually a big deal. A lot of discussion around today as it pertained to Joe and Chauncey and the players hinges on the defense, and rightfully so, because from the 42 game mark on to the end of the season, they showed that they could be a very, very good defensive team. And I would say most players said some version of they think it could be a top 5 or even the top defensive unit, like the best defensive team in the league. And if you look at their personnel, they could be. They have 3 all defensive players. They've got Tease, they've got Drew, and they've got 2. Donovan Clingan is very likely going to be a candidate for that this year. Like his rim protection numbers, like the only guys that were near or past him were guys like Wemby, Victor Wembanyama, Walker Kessler. Like it's guys that you expect. I've mentioned this before on the radio. I genuinely expect Donovan Clingan to be on the U.S. Olympic team in 2028 for Team USA, because you've got to have a big anchor in international basketball. And him and Walker Kessler down in Utah are Team USA's best right now. Certainly there are guys like Chet Holmgren and Evan Mobley, who I think are more of the 4 or 5 tweeners that are exceptionally good defensive players. Neither one of those guys is going to be able to hold their weight against a Jokic or a guy like that. And you need to have those guys in the international game that can just sit in the paint. And the defense is going to get a lot of love, but I think we all kind of know that. So my questions, to Chauncey and basically every player, was some version of, you've brought in Tiago Splitter, you've brought in Coach St. Andrews, and Tiago was the head coach at Paris Basketball. I believe they were the number 3 offense in their league. Thomas Isolo, who's the Memphis Grizzlies coach, he was there previously to Tiago, and they had the number 1 offense in the league. And there was some change over there, but Tiago still had a very good offense. And I'm very interested to see kind of how that offense shakes out. And I've talked to some guys about kind of what they're trying to do and how they're trying to do some things and gotten some feedback. I'm very interested to see kind of what that looks like in the preseason. But the feedback that I got from damn near everyone, or honestly, I don't think I got any feedback where I was like, where somebody hit me with there was a lot of buy-in of we really like the spacing. It's going to look random, but the randomness is going to have kind of a process flow to it. And that's going to take time to build up. That's something like it's, you talk about, the Warriors offense, or basically just think of any like tried and true offensive system that's been very successful in the history of the modern NBA, whether it's the triangle offense in Chicago, the Spursian offense in the many iterations that it went through, and then Phil kind of morphing that triangle with the Lakers. You just kind of go through the 7 seconds or less Suns, the Warriors death lineup, all those things. Certainly they're made up of great players, but it also took time to kind of figure those things out because guys had to understand and know where they needed to get to and how they needed to be there and when they needed to be there. And you're going to find some like natural feel that comes around with that. But I also think that it's going to be incredibly helpful with the players that they have now. Drafting Hansen is a guy. The one thing everybody kept saying about Hansen is feel. Feel is something that whether you're talking to a coach or a player, a front office executive, a trainer, skills developer, whoever it is, you either have it or you don't. Now, you can improve it a little bit. You can watch some film. You can get better understanding to where your feel isn't necessarily an 8, but you're able to read and or predict because you're smarter. And you can have different kinds of feel. You could have defensive feel, like Matisse Thybulle. Matisse Thybulle will bait somebody into thinking that, hey, I'm not actually covering this guy over here. I'm cheating off 2 feet. See me? But he's gone. Because his athleticism is so otherworldly and his ability to close the distance, he can generate a steal or a deflection. Same thing with his shot blocking. Guys think they can get a shot off against Tease, and then he circles back from behind and blocks from behind. That's feel. That's just innate, just stuff you have or stuff you don't. And Tease is a guy that you kind of have to let play outside the realms of that box because his feel is so unique. I think Denny has a different kind of feel. He's got a downhill feel. Knowing when to put his shoulder down, when to accelerate, when to decelerate, when to really lead on somebody. Drew Holiday, incredible field player on both sides of the floor. He can work in ball screen games as a pick-and-roll ball handler. He can also work as a screener defensively. He can guard up to 5s, I've seen him at times, but can legitimately cover most wings in the league, and not just like kind of, but really well, and all the way down to primary ball handlers. And that's because he's so smart, and his feel is so high. So you're putting guys out there. Tamani is another one of those guys. Donovan, defensively, his feel's through the roof. And so you've got all these guys that have a lot of feel and a lot of IQ. And I want to see how much or how well that stuff translates on the offensive end. How well Saint and Splitter and CB, Charles C. Billups are able to get these guys hooked into it and how much they're going to pull out of it. That's what's super interesting to me. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Scoot. Obviously, the hamstring injury, it sucks. I am so bummed to see that was there. A couple people have asked me, did I think Scoot had a chance of starting? Yes, I do. How that would have worked, I'm not necessarily certain. If Drew comes off the bench, if Jeremy's coming off the bench, I will say Jeremy's comments today. Definitely don't think that Jeremy was coming off the bench. But the first article that I will probably publish here about an hour after the podcast is finished, it's the series that I'm doing called Challenges and Opportunities. It's challenges that players are facing, particularly the young guys. I started with the young guys on purpose, and how they can overcome those, because those challenges do present unique opportunities. And I think with this new offense, it's going to allow guys to do things differently. It was very interesting because every one of these players operates so differently, and comes at this offense from a different point of view. Drew Holiday is a guy that has been kind of a chameleon, whether he's playing in his early career in Philadelphia, playing in New Orleans, playing in Milwaukee, playing in Boston. This is a guy who's been the guy and been a guy. And I asked him specifically about that and how he can impart that knowledge to other guys. You go back, you look at it, he had a season in New Orleans where I think he averaged 20 points and 8 assists while also being one of the best defensive players on the planet. Yeah, that's being the guy. You could say Anthony Davis and Boogie, DeMarcus Cousins were down there. Sure, that's fine. But you still had somebody that was generating and initiating things. Drew was that guy. He also toggled into playing off of legitimate superstars in the league, like the best players on the planet, in Giannis Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in Boston. And I think those guys and his ability to be able to toggle on and off bodes really well for what they are, at least in theory, trying to do offensively. Tamani Kamara and Matisse Thybulle are guys that are typically what you would call spacers. They kind of get stuck in the corner. And Tease kind of elaborated on that and threw Tumani in this, and I asked Tumani about it as well. But Tease said, I think that the opportunities and the excitement come from you're going to get more buy-in if you know that there's opportunities to just kind of be a part of everything and not be stuck in the corner. Chauncey Billups said that, there's just not going to be as much stagnation. There's going to be more randomness. Yes, we're going to play faster, but also we're going to play faster. And while it might look chaotic, there is structure around the chaos. And I think that's going to take time. There's going to be mistakes. Don't get it twisted. There's going to be times where you just sit there and want to pull your hair and go, what are you doing? And you're going to see a lot of pointing like, oh, I thought, oh, my bad, okay, until they kind of figure some things out. That's at least my general takeaway. But I don't know if optimistic is the right word. I'm certainly interested to see what this looks like. It certainly sounds more egalitarian. Denny and Jeremy specifically called out the spacing in the offense and how driving lanes are going to be more open and how decisions are going to be made easier. And one thing Billups has constantly said since he became coach here is wanting to put defenses in the chase. And I think this offense has the potential to do that while maybe simplifying some things. Despite it being more random, I think the Rees, if the spacing is correct and the Blazers can maximize some opportunities from floor spacers that I don't think necessarily get the respect. That's your Tumanis, your Teases, your Chris Murrays, hell, Shaden. He hasn't exactly lit the world on fire from three. Where teams that may cheat off them, those guys may get even better looks, and it might be able to drag or pull their 3-point percentage up, or to a guy like Tamani, like up to a significant level to where he goes from a pretty damn good 3-point shooter to, hey, man, that's a 39% 3-point shooter. You can't leave him. And now all of a sudden driving lanes are open and you're picking up how this goes. One thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. So, and I think that's how the Blazers have to kind of go about this because they don't have a singular star. In that vein, I asked Danny Avdia about being more empowered. He was an absolute monster at Eurobasket. And I asked him about the idea of being more empowered. And he did the Denny thing of like, hey, I'm far from a finished product. I can add more to my game. I can do more things. I can really work on X, Y, and Z. I want to go left. Shout out Richmond because he said I think it was Richmond. It might have been Richmond. It might have been Hollinger. There's a lot of people in the room today. Like what? You don't go left? He's like, no, not really. So I got to kind of work on that. Denny is a very strong right-hand driver, but, Malcolm Brogdon went right. I want to say it was 87% of the time, and I remember asking Malcolm about that, and he goes, yeah, it doesn't matter if they know that I'm trying to go right. All I got to do is give them enough to make them think that I'm going to go left once or twice, and then I just get back to my right hand and do what I want to do. That's the apex of being an NBA player, a good NBA player. Yeah, they know what you want to do, and they can try to take it away, but if you're so good that you can get back and do it and still beat them with it, that means you're one of them ones. So, and I think Denny's got a really strong opportunity to do that. And I do think Denny is going to be kind of the straw that stirs the drink in a kind of a wing-centric offense, as it were. Particularly with Scoot down, I think that playmaking burden is going to fall a little stronger on him. Other guys are going to have to chip in. Drew is certainly capable of doing that. We've seen him do it. I don't know if you want him running the offense all the time at this point in his career. I think he's better served as kind of a toggle on, toggle off guy. But the fact that he can, very useful. That's my take, at least surface level on the offensive stuff right now. A lot of people are asking me and tweeting at me and about Jeremy and Jeremy's response. Let me pull these up. I want to make sure I have a bunch of these up right now, so I want to make sure I grab this. Jeremy today was maybe the most bluntly honest I've seen him in a public setting in quite some time. Real quick, apologies to JG. I interrupted his press conference for about 10 seconds in because I had to wait for somebody in the restroom and I had to wash my hands. Sorry. But I've said this in pretty certain terms that I was pretty sure Jeremy was going to be gone. I know JG pretty well. I know he wasn't happy at the end of the season. And I was pretty strongly anticipating that he was going to end up playing somewhere else. It's super helpful for him and from his point of view that two guys that he's intimately familiar with and two guys that he really gets down with Dame and Drew are now on this team. I asked him about, adding Drew and Dame, two guys he played with in the Tokyo Olympics and won a gold medal with, and two guys he was very close with in that Olympic span. And he said, yeah, having those guys here is a big part of why I'm comfortable. I'm good. The other part of it was, and I highlighted this last year, Jeremy was not the only one impacted by this. I've mentioned the shot location. You can, if you've got a membership, as it were, to Cleaning the Glass, you can look at the stats on there on the team side of the location effective field goal percentage. The Blazers finished, I believe, tied for first or just barely at second in effective field goal percentage by location. What that means is if they had shot league average from those spots, they would have had the highest effective field goal percentage in the league. They were an analytical dream. They had almost no mid-range attempts. They just didn't exist in their shot profile, in their shot diet. They were a 3-and-rim team religiously. Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, Shaedon Sharpe. Three guys that they got going in the mid-range. And I'll be bluntly honest. I want Shaedon Sharpe taking mid-range shots because I think that's something that fuels his game. Now, I don't want him settling for mid-range shots, but I don't want his volume to be CJ McCollum-esque. CJ can do that. Kevin Durant can do that because they're otherworldly mid-range shooters. You're allowed to do that. But you can't take the stripes off a Tiger. And if you're a guy that has made his bones, not just in the league, but grew up as a shot creator, getting to the mid-range and being effective there, and all of a sudden it's not there, that is a problem for that player. It bothered Ant, it bothered Shaedon, and it bothered Jeremy. I think those three guys, it bothered a lot. And you saw that impact their game, to be honest, on both sides of the floor. And I asked Jeremy about that, and, he was very blunt. He's like, yeah, I didn't like it, to be honest. It was, and he's much more excited about what this offensive system is going to entail, because he did say that this is going to open up driving lanes, that it's going to allow him to get cleaner shots from three, that he's going to have more opportunities to do those things. And he's probably going to do it as a starter. Jeremy was asked whether or not he was, at this point in his career, comfortable coming off the bench, and if he expected that to be something that he would have to consider. His response was, I don't know. I don't really expect that. That's about as direct of an answer as you're going to get to, hell no, I'm not coming off the bench. I have slow launched this for a couple of weeks now. I had a reeling suspicion that this is the way things were going to go. Now, as I said earlier, I think there is a world where Scoot Henderson could have started. Now, whether that meant Drew was coming off the bench, I'm not 100% certain. But I definitely thought there was a world where Jeremy possibly could be asked to, but I didn't know how much I believed that. And a lot of people are going to get super mad right now. Shaedon Sharpe has to start. Rah, rah, rah. Shaedon, go take it and tell everyone else to shut up. Because if you're so good, you will start. Period, point blank. But if this team is going to make its bones defensively, Drew, 2, Denny, Jeremy, Donovan. That's your starting five. The gap between Shea and Jeremy might as well be the Grand Canyon on that side of the floor. Just what they can do, what their capabilities are, and what their current ability levels are. It's not close. I think Shade's a hell of an offensive prospect. He averaged 19 a game as a 21-year-old, and that was without really having a three ball. Defensively, he's a long ways away. And while you can say, well, yeah, you've got all these guys around him to support him, that's not the way they want to operate. And you can argue with that. That's your right. It's totally fine. But I'm looking at, what do the Blazers want to do? What do they want their identity to be? It is firmly rooted in defense. If Shaedon goes out there and turns into a replacement level defender or better on a night in, night out basis, while also dropping 20 a game, he won't be on the bench for long. And it'll be a good problem for the Blazers to have. But he's got to go do that. He's in a contract year. This should be one hell of a motivator for him, especially after looking at guys like Jonathan Kuminga and Josh Giddey and Cam Thomas and Quentin Grimes, and going, hey, this RFA status stuff, This is for the birds, man. I don't want to do that. I want to go out there and get paid because I can perform. If I'm Shaden Sharp, I hope that's his mindset. Because I want everybody to get paid. I genuinely do. Go out there, get paid. But as it stands right now, going into the season, the best, most trustworthy defensive lineup they can put out, Drew, 2, Denny, Jeremy, Donovan. It's not close. You can say, well, the future of the franchise. Shaden, go do it. He needs more opportunity. He's going to play 30 minutes a night. He's going to get opportunity. And if he goes out there and balls out, Chauncey Billups, you guys can have all the stuff that you don't like or this, that, or the other around him. That's fine. He has not held one guy off the floor who was just cooking, who hadn't earned it. Toumani Camara just won an all-defensive award this past year. 2 got his ass sat down in year 1 because he wasn't doing what he was asked. 2 did what he was asked, got better, and then went out there and became an all-defensive team member. Like Matisse Thybulle, flat out said that, Doc Rivers wouldn't let him shoot when he first got here. Chauncey empowered him. Now, Tease, had the injury that kept him out basically all of last season with the ankle. But his comfort and his ability to do those things, like you got to see more of his game. He's not out there like Steph Curry, but he's more empowered because he's doing the things he's being asked to do. And if Shaden goes out there and does the things he's being asked to do and delivers, he's going to get his opportunities. Like that's just kind of how Chauncey rolls. And you can be mad about it, and you can say somebody's earned this or Jeremy hasn't earned this. I'm going to argue with you because I think Jeremy has earned it. And yes, Jeremy was atrocious last year. He was not good. But he was still better on the defensive end than Shaden was by a lot. So we'll see what comes out of training camp. It's not set in stone. Maybe they won't now because Scoot's out. I was like, well, maybe Shaden can start over Drew, but no, they need somebody with a little bit more control as an initiator. So it'll be Drew. I tried to talk myself into it for a split second, but that didn't happen. But yeah, I know some people are super mad about it, or it's not going to happen. I to be honest, I would be stunned at this point if Jeremy Grant was not starting on opening night. Now, come Christmas, come New Year, come trade deadline, I don't know. I got no idea. But as it stands right now, I'm pretty confident that that'll be the case. That'll be your starting lineup. We'll see where it goes. I'm trying to think of. Young Hansen. Boy, is that dude entertaining. Everybody had something to say about Hansen, and it had pertained to number 1, his feel. Number 2, his passing. Number 3, he's really big. I think it was Drew was like, that dude is huge, which if Hansen's huge to him, what does Donovan look like? Good God. It was a funny exchange. Drew said that Donovan blocked his shot in their first kind of scrimmage together, and he told Donovan, don't do that again. And then Drew was like, he hasn't done that again either. Donovan said that Drew pump faked and passed out of a couple opportunities. But Donovan said he'd get him back, which they're already having some fun. That's kind of encouraging. But I really like where they're at with Hansen in the sense of like guys on a team aren't going to throw guys under a bus, but they're also not going to gas a guy up who doesn't have it. And everybody has said some version of like Hansen's first guy in, last guy out. His feel is incredible. His post footwork is really good. He's incredibly strong. He's an incredibly diligent worker, not only on his game, but on his English and trying to get better at all facets of things. And I think that bodes really well for Hansen because a lot of this could be very, very, very overwhelming for him. And he has chosen not to let that be the case. So I'm looking at that and going, okay, let me go ahead and write this in the notes. Robert Williams III, this is a newsy part of this, has not been cleared for full 5-on-5 yet. But he has been doing stuff more than 1-on-1 or 1-on-0. So I think you're probably looking at him. He's probably been doing some 3-on-3, or he's been doing some 5-on-5 walkthrough. I would imagine probably by Thanksgiving there's a full thumbs up. That's kind of my anticipation, at least. I'm not reporting anything. That's just my feel for where this stuff's at. But with that, Hansen's going to play 18 minutes a night. He might play less because Donovan Clingan looks good. Donovan was very blunt in his, I was not in shape. And I was beating this drum from the first part of last season, and I got a lot of crap for it. So, there. Tooting my own horn. Toot toot. Donovan wasn't in shape. Wasn't even close to where he needed to be. He said as much. He couldn't get through practices without huffing and puffing. He has transformed his body. He lost a ton of weight, and then he put some muscle back on. I should have asked him. I would imagine he's probably right around 280 pounds. He looks leaner than I've ever seen him. I'm very interested to see just how many minutes he can play. He's confident that he can play 30 minutes a night. While he was playing, and he did hit that 30-minute threshold a couple times, I don't know if he's going to give you 65-plus games of 30 minutes a night. He's just too freaking big. I pulled the stat on this last year, I think before he played, or it was early in the season, and the guys that are 7'2" or taller that have played more than 30 minutes per game since like 1975, I think is what, again, I'm going off of last year, so forgive me if I'm not nailing this perfectly. There was 14 total players that have done it. When you're that big, there are limitations, and Donovan is just massive. And it's hard to get up and down 90-plus feet every single night when you're going paint to paint. That's the thing. Is like he's not going three-point line to three-point line. He's got to go 80-plus feet, and he's kind of got to book it, and he's got to really save his energy for the defensive side. So I'm interested to see just how much that impact really is there, because I tell you, he looks great. You know, you talk about muscle watch. His body's the most transformed I've seen on the team, alongside Tumani and Denny. Those are probably the three guys. If you're going whose bodies look the most different, it's those three guys. Denny and Tu look jacked and lean. Like, it was kind of stunning just how different those three guys looked physically. Trying to think, I think I've hit all my highlights on my notes as far as the immediate stuff. Somebody's commenting. I really enjoyed Rob's interview. I'll tell you right now, selfishly as media members, we love when Robert Williams III has a microphone. Rob is unfiltered. Absolutely, totally, unequivocally unfiltered. He is who he is, and nobody cares when Rob says shit. He gets away with it. It's like David Ortiz. There's just when you're just unabashedly you all the time, that's who you are. And I thought it was really cool when he was like, I'm always getting on Shaden's ass. It's like my little brother. And Rob's gone through it with the injuries, and you can tell how much it's kind of impacted and affected him. And I really want the guy to play, because when he's on the floor and he's healthy, man, is he good. But also when he's healthy, he's around. And I think he's good for these guys to have around. And on the floor, I mean, you could put some lineups on the floor. If their team is healthy, when you're talking about Drew, Tu, Tease, Jeremy, Donovan, Rob, hell, Chris, Ryan, when he's, if he's in there, like, they can put some lineups on the floor. I don't know how good they'll be offensively, but defensively, they could be stifling. Just suffocating, brutal team to play against. And I'm very interested to see if and how much Chauncey Billups and his staff are willing to roll some of those. Oh, hey, we may not score, but you're not going to score either lineups. I'm going to tinker with some of those, the ones that kind of want to see the most out there. And just how likely they get out there and how effective they could be. But those are the ones that I'm kind of really, really, really looking forward. It's going to be super interesting to kind of see which way that stuff goes. So let's get to some of your questions here. Sorry, I reset my Twitter. I had to go back to it. Chris Bridges asks, is this purchase deal actually on the rocks? The fact there were comments today at all about new ownership makes it sound like no fear of that purchase going through. I would say publicly that's probably going to be the case. They're definitely not going to go out there and say one thing one way or the other. Unless something is reported that, it's kind of more in stone. I'll make the comparison again. Pablo finds out. dropped the kind of a little bit of a hammer on the Clippers this morning about another potential link between Steve Ballmer and the Clippers and that whole quasi scandal. Even then, it's like, no, everything's fine. We're good here. See, nothing to see here. We're totally fine. So I think things there are going to be okay until they aren't. I think that's probably the best qualifier that I can put there. But I again, from the folks that I've talked to, no one at this point anticipates there to be any radical changes right now. That's as much as I can say because that's just as much as I know. Chris also asked, do you think the Blazers will play a game in China anytime soon? I would say me and other media members are currently setting up other accounts or savings accounts to make a trip to China in the relatively near future. I would be stunned if Hansen ends up being a solid or above average player and the Blazers don't play in China. It's just, I think I need people to realize there are more fans in China alone, NBA fans, than basically the rest of the world. It's 800 million people. It's bonkers. From a financial gain standpoint alone, the NBA and the Blazers absolutely want to play a game in China. There was 15 media members in the press conference today representing Chinese media. So yeah, there's real interest, and heaven forbid he go out there and hoop, because if he does, woo, buddy. Dwayne Hankins, one of the things he did mention. Oh, hi Dallas. One of the things that he did mention. Come here. You want to make a TV appearance? Okay, come on. It's been a while. Come here, sweetheart. There you go. Everybody say hi to Dallas. There we go. Oh, thanks, Mama. Okay. Dwayne Hankins did mention, he had been talking with his counterpart, the president of the Houston Rockets, and kind of how they handled things, not only when they took Yao, but the post Yao sequence. And that's kind of like, you brought in this whole fan base from China, and they kind of adopted the Rockets. And I think you could say the same thing about the Lakers and the Warriors, not necessarily because of Chinese players, but because of the West Coast time zone. Well, Hansen's playing on the West Coast time zone while also being a Chinese national. Like, that's something we just haven't really seen. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how that goes and just how much they're able to capitalize on that kind of push. The Blazers have hired a social media person that's going to specialize in their Chinese social media, which is like Red Note and I think Weibo. Am I remembering right? I could be getting them wrong. That might be an anime site. I can't remember. There's so many of them. Sorry, I'm old and I'm washed. It is what it is. Texas Blazer asks, who's in the way of Drew getting number 11 for his jersey? Guys, I don't know. I asked about this, and I asked directly about, hey, is there something planned for Arvydas getting his jersey retired? And I got bubkiss. I got absolutely nothing. So I don't know, because certainly guys have worn number 11. But I would imagine that if there are 3 players that are going to get jerseys up in the rafter, Brandon Roy, LaMarcus Aldridge, Arvydas Sabonis are your top 3 candidates. And there's certainly been a push from the Trailblazers over the last 2 years to bring alumni and to bring guys back into the fold. We've seen Brandon in the building, Greg Oden in the building. Guys have come back. Terry Porter's working as a scout. Brian Grant is working as a consultant with the team. It was as a guy who grew up watching this team, and BG was one of my dad's favorite players. I got to watch Hansen's debut with BG right in front of me and got to talk to him during the game. I love having him around, and he's been so much so much healthier lately. It's very cool to have him around. Okay, I'm putting you down so Tanner can stop being jealous. There you go. You can come up if you want, Tanner. No, okay. Sorry, guys. I've got doggy duty by myself right now. It's better there in my lap than barking, so this is what we got to deal with. But that's something that the Blazers have been a push for. So I overall think it's good, because I think from basically 2010 through 2020, the Blazers are really crappy when it pertains to alumni and past players and all that kind of stuff. You can pick up what I'm putting down there, who didn't prioritize those things. So Somebody in the chat asked, this may or may not have already been announced. Will there be a second season of Rip City wrap up, and will I be a part of it? Stay tuned. Stay tuned. So, Andrew asks, who do I think will end up being the number one option? I think on most nights it's probably going to be Denny. Denny's ability to shoot has really kind of taken an uptick, and that was really the concern is can Denny generate 3-point shots off the dribble? You have to be able to do that in the NBA to be a primary guy, and if you aren't, you have to be so special that you're just so super like Giannis. Like you have to be Giannis. That's what you have to be. You have to be such a rim pressure and finishing monster that it doesn't matter that you're not taking 4 pull-ups a game. So, but I think on most nights it's going to be Denny. But I think we spent so much time talking about that offense, and I am going to dive into the offense once I get a chance to talk to the assistant coaches, talk to the players a little bit more, and just kind of get some feel of like what they like, what they don't like, what they're trying to do, how they're trying to do it, where they need to improve. And we'll dive into that, particularly in the preseason, and then as we get into the regular season as well. But with that, I think you're going to have a night where Shade goes for 30. I think you're going to have a night where Tumani has a 25-point game because he gets hot from 3. Or, Tu was pretty adamant. I asked him about, hey, now that you're kind of stamped defensively, not that you can forsake being a defensive guy, do you kind of take that as, hey, no, I know where I hang my hat, but I can get better on the other end of the floor? And the guy I'd always compare Tumani to is Wes Matthews, a guy who cut his teeth, made his bones, cut his teeth. I put those two together on defense, and then slowly added to his game and added to his game. And I think Tu can be like a big wing version of Wes. And yeah, he can shoot threes, but what if all of a sudden he can attack closeouts? What if all of a sudden he's working as a roll man, as a screener? And what if he can work as a secondary creator, as a passer? Like, those are the things I'm kind of looking at. And how does that translate on a given night? But I think if you're looking at things right now, I think Denny's your number one option on most nights, where other nights guys are just going to fill in and do stuff. And I think that's interesting and exciting, and it makes it harder to game plan against, but it also makes it a little bit less predictable, which means you might be in a rock fight a lot of nights. You might be first to 100. So that part of it is going to be pretty interesting, at least in that vein for me. I will say this is probably one of the more interesting seasons I've covered in the last 6 years, for sure. There's more questions, there's more opportunities, there's more, and not in a bad way, like, ugh, who's going to do this? It's more like, hey, this guy could do this. Hey, this guy could do this. It's not an optimistic look, but I think it's certainly I'll plug my own stuff here, a challenges and opportunities aspect. I think it's very interesting. So, yeah, I think that's kind of ultimate where things are falling right now. I'm gonna cut it there, just because I have a bunch of stuff that I want to see and I want to work through, as far as preseason and like kind of let's see what comes out of training camp, which is getting underway tomorrow. I'm going to try to make it down there. We'll see what happens tomorrow, but tomorrow or Wednesday I'm going to try to get down there and find out kind of like where things are, how things look. See if I can sidle up to somebody from the side and kind of get a little bit of feedback on some stuff off the record, just kind of inform some thoughts that I have or questions that I have, and see if I can get some feedback, and then put those things together into this challenges and opportunities push that I'm doing with on the content side, of which patreon.com/Jacked Ramsays. Like I said, in probably about an hour, I'm going to go put that up. That'll be the first one. Will be on Scoot. It's a major bummer that Scoot's dinged up, and hopefully, I asked Joe Cronin, does it at this point look like it's going to require surgery? He said no, so I guess I should have got that at the beginning of the show. Sorry about that. I'm a little scatterbrained right now, but we'll see where ultimately that part of it ends up. But yeah, the podcast will be coming a lot more frequently. I've got something cool that I'm working on somebody with that if it comes together, it'd be very cool to share with you guys. We'll see where that goes. I don't want to get too far over my skis before that happens. And then we'll see on Rip City Wrap Up what comes out of that or what doesn't. And then we'll kind of work our way from there. Like, rate, review, subscribe. I appreciate you guys riding with me. Like I said, sorry I had to take some time off. I had to be blunt, for my own got to take care of your chickens, got to take care of your mental. Shout out Marshawn. And I had to focus on that. So, thank you guys for riding with me. I do appreciate it. I realized the other day, this was I thought it was 15th. It's 14th year, that I've been doing this. And I'm the old guy on the beat now, which is super, super weird being in my 40s and being the old guy there. But thank you guys. I couldn't do this stuff without you. I wouldn't be where I am without the support you guys have given me. To everybody who hates my guts, thank you for voicing your hatred, because whether you hate me or love me, you're feeling something about it one way or the other, and that works for my bosses, and that catches checks too. So, you guys, everyone there, have a wonderful, wonderful night. Take care. And if you're not already subscribed to the Patreon, go to patreon.com/Jacked Ramsays, and that should drop here hopefully within the hour, barring anything hanging up. So, and that'll be the challenges, opportunities with Scoot Henderson. Take care. Have a wonderful night. Yes, puppies. I'll see you in just a second. Take care. Talk soon.